Good afternoon, everyone. As you just heard, my name is Shantanu Prakash. But the reason I'm here today is because I come from a family of refugees. My father was a refugee. In 1947, he was put on a train, yanked from his really comfortable existence in Lahore in Pakistan, and thrown into a completely alien land where he knew no one, not a soul. Well, he was one of the 15 million or so people who were traumatically displaced during the partition of India. At age 15, he had to restart his life from zero. And today, I run a global education business that operates in several countries of the world and employs more than 8,000 people. Quite a transformation in just one generation. My story is by no means exceptional. If you look back into history, if you rewind the clock, you'll figure out that from the times of thousands of years before Christ, 740 BC, the exodus from Israel, go back to the Ice Ages, in some sense, the world has been shaped by this powerful thing we call refugees and migration. And we have plenty of examples of people from more recent times, exceptional people who, despite having been uprooted from the place that gave them their sense of self-worth and the sense of self, managed to leave their mark on the world. Have a look at some of these really exceptional people. Sergey Brin, Madeleine Albright, Henry Kissinger, Rita Ora, Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and of course, Freddie Mercury. We know all of them, right? But did we know that all of them are refugees? Well, you might say that these are exceptionally talented people. And it doesn't really matter. You can put them in any situation, and these people would do exceedingly well. Well then, let's have a look at a few ordinary people. Have a look at this picture. On the left is Abdul Alim. He traveled 4,000 miles from Syria to Germany. And he comes with a Bachelor of Science degree with distinction from the University of Damascus. In the middle, you have Ghulam Rasool, 60 years old, general manager of a consumer products company from Somalia, and a PhD in social sciences. But the world calls him a refugee. And then there is young Fatima Lubna, all of 14 years old. You can see the glint in her eyes because she is the topper of her class from Afghanistan. I look at these so-called ordinary people, and I'm reminded of the days when I was graduating from business school in a small town in India, and I was thinking of the next big step of my life. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And I spoke to my professor, and I said, look, I'm the first in my family to do this. I've come from a refugee family. I'm really nervous about this step that I'm going to take. So he looked at me and he said, son, you must take this step by all means, but do some introspection first and see if you have these few qualities: the capacity to deal with failure, take risk, have passion, flexibility, resilience, and the ability to start again if you fall and stumble. Then for a moment, I had some kind of an epiphany. I thought of my dad. He started as a penniless refugee. He had a business plan, but not a business plan for a business. He had a business plan for his family. And that business plan had one defining characteristic, and that was how does he ensure safety and well-being for the family? And of course, the one ingredient that he believed would be the passport to success. Yes, education. Well, his determination paid off, and many years later, I graduated with a degree from the university. He was a refugee, But think about it. He was also an entrepreneur. Before I started dreaming of creating business plans, he had already built one, not for a business, but for his families. But the characteristics of these people we label as refugees seemed all of a sudden to me very similar to the characteristics of these people we glorify as entrepreneurs. The ability to take risk, create something where nothing exists, resilience, passion, drive, determination, and flexibility. These brilliant young men, old men, women, we define them as refugees. If you look back at history, I doubt if there's ever been a word that is more loaded than this word we call refugee. In fact, this word is quite special. It evokes a whole range of emotions inside us: anger, distrust, compassion, tolerance, revilement, all kinds of feelings, and sometimes all within the very same person. But when I look at these refugees, I see them not as refugees, but as global entrepreneurs. But I want you to think about refugees from a different dimension. Think for a moment. Close your eyes if you want. Was there ever a moment in your lives when you felt unwanted, uncared for, where you felt that the whole world hated your existence and did not believe in your ideas? Nobody had faith in you. Remember the time when you were bullied at school? The time when you were turned down in your first job interview? When people posted mean comments on your Facebook wall? That first date when your proposal was turned down? Yes, we've all been there. We've all had what I call our refugee moment. Dear friends, we are all united in this world by what I call a refugee moment. We've got out of the refugee moment. We built a life for ourselves. But are we giving the same chance to the 15 million people in this world that the United Nations and we label as refugees? Are we giving them an opportunity to grow out of their refugee moment? I was recently nominated by the World Economic Forum to something called the Global Futures Council on Migration. We are a group of about 25 people or so, CEOs of large corporations, ministers from different countries, director generals for not-for-profit organizations, and we all sit together and we talk. We talk about solutions, about integration, about how we can make this world a better place for refugees, how we can resolve the conflict that exists today. But instead of talking, I decided to do something about it. I decided to start an online academy for refugees. Not simply an academy that would teach you skills, a lot of them exist, but an academy for global entrepreneurship. An academy that would teach these people we call refugees how to transform, how to morph the business plan of their lives into a sustainable, economically viable business plan. I'm sure this academy will have some impact, maybe a lot of impact. But what I'm really concerned about is the refugee mentality amongst all of us. Maybe instead of teaching the refugees, maybe all of us need to learn. We need to foster a sense of belongingness, eliminate the feeling of being unwanted because, friends, at some point of time or the other in our lives, we've all been there, we've all experienced a refugee moment. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur. Education is a business for me, but more important than a business, it is a passion. And even for a second, if none of you share my passion for education, you cannot deny that the advantages that all of us have of an educated, a skilled refugee population are immense and perhaps incalculable. When can we start honoring the enterprising zeal of refugees and allow them to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem? If we do not invest in refugees today, all of us will end up paying a really big price in the future, a heavy burden that I'm sure none of you want to carry with yourself. But if you look at the data puts forward an extremely dismal picture that all of us should be really concerned about. According to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, 3.7 million refugee kids in the world, less than 40% even have a chance to get a basic education. And that's a violation. It's a violation of the 1951 Refugee Convention. It's a violation of the 1989 Convention on the Rights of a Child. But what are we doing about it? These people who traveled thousands of miles are not refugees. They are global entrepreneurs who are highly motivated to rebuild their lives despite all the hostile environment around them, despite all the challenges around them. When I look at refugees, I see a population that is perhaps going to transform the world like never before. And I can attest for it myself, because if it hadn't been for a few very ordinary, very unassuming people 50 years back, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today and giving this TED Talk. Well, I'm making a small beginning in my own way by setting up this Academy for Global Entrepreneurship for Refugees. This academy will provide business plans, education, mentorship, maybe also some seed funding. There is a big difference between the 740 BC world, when you had this huge migration. There's a big difference from 1947, when 15 million people, including my father, were displaced. The world has changed, my friends. The fourth industrial revolution is now in front of us. But what's different? In the fourth industrial revolution, can I ask you this question: what's more important? Is it intellectual capital or is it financial capital? What's important? The color of your skin or the beauty of your talent? What's important? Changing the world through the power of religion or changing the world with the power of ideas? It's more important to be a job creator than a job consumer, isn't it? And it's not important where you came from, what passport you had, or what label you put on yourself. It is more important where you are heading. The sad story is, we all talk about refugees and skills and jobs, but we have a bottoms-up approach to them. When you look at large corporations who have pledged to give jobs to these refugees, they are looking at the bottom of the food chain to give them jobs. Janitors, people who sort out mail, low-end jobs. What I want to do is use the immense skills that these people already possess to have a top-down approach. In the fourth industrial revolution, 70% of the jobs that we think exist today will not exist over the next 5 years. Why can't we think of these refugees, these entrepreneurs, as data scientists, as programmers, Internet of Things professionals? Why can't they work in artificial intelligence, legal, art and design? We want to be top-down and not bottoms up. Yes, it seems kind of ambitious, but is it impossible? The answer is no. I think all we need to do together is to provide guidance, skills, and more importantly, a safe, trusted, and a welcoming environment. So today, dear friends, I'm asking you for a very small part of your lives. If we want a better world for ourselves and our children, can we make a pledge to do something different, something new, something hopeful, a change in mindset, perhaps? Can we smile at a refugee child? Can we go out and volunteer? Can we teach someone a new skill? Can we do something? The oath that you take to yourself today is going to change this world the moment you walk out of that door. Remember, we all had a refugee moment, and perhaps it's time to transform our refugee moment into a refugee movement. Thank you so much.